And this is going to be Jack. Hello.
Hey, Bart. How's it going?
Jack is like, he's got everything going on. He's a new CLP website subscriber, so he's always getting priority. He submitted via the Fastroll app, so that gets him priority. And one of my favorites, it's also a limp pot too, which I love, big limp pots. But of course, the Fastroll app, if you want to make live notes about your live hands, I've seen a bunch of apps that they're so hard to input like the actual hand. Fastroll, a couple guys in the CLP community made this so that as you get good at it, you can enter all of your hands really quickly while you're at the table. And then you start to build out like a whole database of hands so that if you want to go back and like look for your leaks in certain positions, share your hands, post your hands up like on Discord, it exports it in a hand history format. And you can, of course, submit it here to us. So how's it going, Jack? Where are you playing out of?
Doing great. I'm playing out of the Lodge in San Antonio.
The Lodge in San Antonio. I used to know that place as Rounders, right? Rounders?
Yeah. It used to be Rounders. I was never there when it was Rounders, but it's the Lodge now, and it's my favorite. It's my favorite card room. I think I live in Austin, but I drive all the way to San Antonio.
Oh wow! So I made that trip before. I've actually made that trip to play Big O. There was a bunch of Big O games, and my wife and I went. All right. So what's the size of the game here?
So it's a 1-2 game, but 1-2 in Texas always plays more like a 2-5.
Right. And how deep are you here for this hand?
Well, I'm sitting. It's 2,500 effective for this hand, but I'm actually 3,500 deep.
2,500 effective. Wow.
Yeah, I've only been there for 3.5 hours, and I've run it up.
Is this a match the stack or is there a cap?
Yeah, I was in for 1,000,
okay.
And it's matched the stack, and yeah, I just ran it up really fast, and I'm sitting many big blinds deep.
Well, many big blinds deep, and probably the $4 or $5 always on, or probably people are opening like $30. So it's
yeah. This hand, it's a 1-2 with a $5 straddle and a $10 double straddle.
There you go. Yeah, exactly. This is how you get to these spots. The thing about Texas that I remember as I talk about sometimes on the podcast is this is where you see these multiple blind games where like there's 4 or 5 blinds in a certain hand. And I just talk about like being cognizant of like, you could have 5 or 6 blinds where you're first to act like in the cutoff or on the button. You just have to remember that even though you're going to have position throughout the hand, you're still raising into a bunch of unknown hands. It's not like a button open range because no one's gone yet. Whereas in a normal 2-blind game, most of the table's already folded. So you just keep that in mind.
Yeah, for sure. And so, like I say, I've been doing very well since I got there. The villain in this hand, I'm just going to go ahead and give you the background. When he sat down, he was just like a young guy with a backpack full of chips, and he kind of puts down all the chips that he has in his backpack on the table. And then he sees my stack, and he kind of grumble because he doesn't have enough to match the stack. He doesn't have enough to match me. So he goes to the cage and gets more chips, and he matches me right away. And the table talk is all about how well I'm doing. And this guy he was already kind of grumbled about how he didn't have enough to match the stack. But
these guys don't. But you're not a reg there because you're out of town, quote unquote, right?
Oh yeah, I've only been there 5 times or something. But yeah, everyone's talking about how well I'm doing, and this guy seems really livid about that.
Do they have do they do a live stream on it here too?
I don't think at the San Antonio location. No.
All right, start us off here. So 1-2 plus 5 plus 10. Okay.
All right, and every position limps. Every position calls the 10.
Okay.
And I'm in the small blind with King of Spades, 6 of Spades.
So,
and I limp as well.
Okay. So there's 1, 2, 3. You're playing 9-handed? Is it 9-handed?
Yeah.
So would it be 5 limps, I guess? 5 limps?
That sounds right. Yeah.
So 5 limps. Hero, and again, I've seen this many times. I'm not shocked, right? Hero is in the small blind with King of, what did you say you had?
King of Spades, 6 of Spades.
So this is really going to depend because obviously you're in the worst position here. And I mean, obviously 5 people have already limped in. Like this might be a hand that and remember in Texas, it's a time game. So people talk about like over limping. Like I would over limp this hand on the button like all day long, right? Against like 5 people or like a small suited ace. Here, You know what? I talked about this. Like, you're completing the full $9 here. I think it's probably just a fold. Now, there's only 3 guys left to act to your left. They could obviously just raise. So, you know that these guys haven't raised, but I guess my question then goes like, you wouldn't play this hand from under the gun, right?
No. So the table, besides the villain, no one is aggressive at all.
Yeah. Yeah, I had a 1-2 game.
Yeah. Everyone's like, what I had in my mind was that the villain was under the gun, but he had actually, and I thought he limped. But when I called the 10, I assumed based on patterns that everyone left to act would just check their option. And
Well, obviously. I mean, again, you're getting, it's funny because some guys are actually calling me a nit for even saying folding. I mean, yeah, the pot's already going to be like 60 and it's 9 for you to call. I'm just saying that. So what is that, like 5 or 6 to 1 with king 6? But you're out of position though. That's the key.
I'm ultimately out of position.
Definitely would be a over-limp for me anywhere in position, but you're out of position. Whatever. All right. So you complete for 9, and then what? Does everybody else come in? Is it literally everybody gets in there?
Oh, well, so it goes to the big blind now. Who's the villain? Who raises to 80.
Oh, okay. So the guy who's in the $2 raises to 80?
Yeah. And he was the only person, if I had known he was in that seat, I probably wouldn't have limped. I thought he was a limper because this guy has been raising me just constantly every single one of my bets. And he actually moved to be on my direct left, which is annoying.
Okay. So he raises to 80, and then what happens?
Only I call. Everyone else folds.
Wait a minute. Everyone else folds and you call?
Yeah.
You call 71 more? So, I mean, you guys are... I get it. So there's 5 limpers, so that's like $50. You're in there for 60. He goes to 80. That's 140. And then you're calling 70 for 140. You're closing the action. So you're getting a dead 2 to 1. A dead 2 to 1 from out of position. But that's not really enough, though, because, like, remember, like, if you just kind of pictured this as like a straight 5-10 game, and somebody raised it up to, like, say, 35. So that would mean that the pot would be like, what, 50-25 for you to call. Well, I guess sometimes you might call.
I really want to get tangled up with this villain. I've seen him, like, there's a previous hand where he bet 60% of his stack, and then I raised and he snap folded,
Yeah.
He's just really coming at me. I want to get involved with this guy. If I make a flush, if I get a sneaky trips, I'm going to get every single one of his dollars.
Well, yeah, but I mean, we can say that about, this is why I always talk about the old 15, 25, 35 rule. And what I mean by that is that if you haven't, I don't know if you're familiar with that, if you're new, old school crush lead poker, and I would extend these odds up a little bit now to maybe like 20x. If you were just going to play a hand with implied odds just to hit like a set, right? You really need to make like at least 20x the raise size. So that's one of the I'm doing a couple of, I said at the beginning of this live stream, I'm actually talking at Harvard next weekend. I'm going down to Austin to talk at a financial conference. Different people are at different levels. But literally, like, one of the very, very basic things that I taught all of my Chinese clients that were playing the biggest game in the world was this concept of, all right, well, if a guy's got 700 and he raises to like $60 and I want to call with pocket threes, that's not a profitable call. Like, he's got to be like 1,200 deep because you got to flop a set and he's got to have something. So it sort of takes into account for that. I said 15 times for set mining, 25 times for like suited connectors, 35 times for like gap suited connectors. Now, you guys are deep, pretty deep, but I mean, I would think king 6 suited kind of runs it to like the 35 times, and you're not that deep and you're out of position. So I just, all right. But anyways, all right. So Euro calls.
It's a loose call.
Euro calls. All right. So it looks like the pot's going to be like probably like 220 or something like that, maybe.
Yeah, I got 215, but yeah.
All right, 250.
And the flop comes ace of spades, queen of diamonds, 6 of clubs.
So you just flop a 6, right?
I just flop a pair, yeah, with a backdoor nut flush draw.
Okay.
And I go ahead and I donk.
What? You lead?
I lead. So in retrospect, I like it actually, but that's kind of results oriented. But at the time, we were just kind of chatting. Like, I bet you're not going to lead this flop, is what he said to me. He just he bets 80. I call, and as the dealer's putting out the cards, he goes, "I bet you're not going to lead this flop." And I see the 6 in the window, and I just kind of grab 75 right away. And I go, oh, yeah. And I kind of put it in.
Here's the thing, man. So let me ask you this question. Okay. Is this a bluff? Is it value bet? Is it a protection bet?
Like I said, in retrospect, I understand it a lot better. At the time, I guess it would go into the see where I'm at category.
Well, we definitely don't want to do see where we're at. And there's a couple things going on. Number one, the whole see where I'm at is definitely not a thing. Even if see where I'm at was a thing, though, this type of board is very problematic for quote unquote see where I'm at, because you can just get absolutely punished. You are at the definition of having I hate the term capped range, because I understand what it means theoretically, but so many people misuse the term. But you actually are in the definition here, I would say, of a capped range. Which I guess with the exception of the fact that if you were super tricky, because you closed the action pre, I suppose you might trap with a hand. Like you were like, I'm going to limp in because I know this guy's going to raise. And then once he raises and everyone else folds, you're going to play it sneaky. I suppose you could make that case. But usually in a situation like this, like you're not going to have aces, you're not going to have ace queen, you're not going to have pocket queens. So, and a lot of people don't even just like fast play against an aggressive player set. So if I was this guy and I had like king jack here, like I could just take this away from you at some point, whether it's raising flop, waiting until the turn. So you're kind of seeing where you're at, and then you're just like increasing the bluffing frequency of this hand. The other interesting part of this is that like you have something here in the sense that you actually have a pair. So, you probably you might, if you thought the guy was totally full of shit, you could even make a case here for bluff catching down a couple of streets and seeing what the guy's doing by check calling. It's not like you have absolutely nothing. You know what I'm saying? Like you actually have king 6 here.
Yeah. So the only thing I'll say is that I don't like my donk. I didn't really know, except that he had made a comment, and this guy's been so aggressive towards me. I think this villain thinks I'm afraid of absolute size of bets. I've made some tight folds to him when he made some very, very large bets, and they're 75% pot, whatever. And it was just I had a top pair, but a draw came in. I'm making a good fold, but I've folded every time he's bet a lot.
So why don't you take that like into consideration and then check to him and not fold, induce a bluff?
No, you're right. You're absolutely right. I don't like my donk.
I would just say that this is, again, look, and I think you understand this now because of the way that the texture is in the pre-flop. You're just usually not leading into a board like this with a guy to your left who's the pre-flop raiser. But okay, so you leads for 75. What does he do?
He raises to 300.
So the big blind raises to 300. Well, this is exactly, I remember I'm not being 100% honest. Obviously, I saw the email, but I didn't actually remember that the guy raised on the flop. It's coming back to me a little bit, but it doesn't surprise me. This is what you want to avoid,
So I almost snap mucked, except that, like I said, this guy has been coming after me, and I think that he thinks I'm afraid of absolute size. And when he makes it 4x, I actually think he's more leaned towards bluffs, because if he was trying to get more money out of me, he would have made it 225, 200, something more reasonable.
Well, I will say, listen, I would never, ever in a million years play it this way. But I'm trying to. But what I'm saying now, though, is that, he made it 4x, right? You lead 75 in a 215, so it's like whatever 290, and now it's 590. It's 225 for you to call. You're getting maybe 2.75 to 1. You have a backdoor spade draw. I might not fold now because I think your call might freeze this guy a lot. Like, it just looks like you have an ace. And unless he's just going to try to like blind you, bluff you off. Also, too, I would rather have your hand king 6 than a hand like 5-6. because king 6 here means that like if he's doing this with like king 10, king jack, something like that, and a king comes, you have 2 pair. Whereas 5-6, you're just going to be like in the absolute dark, like, you know what I'm saying, like forever. So I never would have led here, but I could see actually calling and seeing what develops, and you can pick up a backdoor here. I mean, it's close, right? I don't think anyone's going to get on you from folding.
I feel like if I had checked, he would have bet way more.
Way more than 300?
Way more than 75.
Yeah, but look what you just got yourself into, though.
Well, what I'm saying is that I think that if he just calls the 75, he's way more weighted towards ace queen, ace king. I think this raise let me know that I might have the best hand here because I don't think he wants a call.
You think his raise let you know that he might? You're actually more comfortable getting raised than if he just called.
Yes, if he calls, I feel like, well, I hope I can pick up a king or a spade. I feel like this, if I'm being aggressive for him, I think he might just let me keep the pressure on if he has a strong hand.
I will tell you though, I don't necessarily agree with you now. I will tell you though, this was what you're saying actually is what used to be a thing back when No Limit first started, giving you a history lesson back in 2005. There were players where like, I used to fast play everything, right? Like, and there were also players where if a guy raised this board, you knew he didn't have anything because he would slow play everything. But I don't necessarily. So it sounds to me like you continued. Is that right? Hero calls?
Did. I called.
All right. So now it's 8:15. Okay. Yeah.
The turn is the 8 of diamonds.
Well, that doesn't help you much, right?
No.
Okay.
It brings in a backdoor diamond draw.
Right.
And I check and villain checks.
Okay. So this is what I was talking about in the sense of the reason why I considered calling 225 on the flop, even though it's very, very hard for me to get here, is that you've got, right, slight equity with a backdoor, and you have a pair, right? It's not like you have nothing. And your call looks so strong that it actually might freeze your opponent, and you actually might get to showdown. As crazy as that sounds, you might get to showdown. So this is one of the actual good things that could happen here. Hero checks and big blind checks back.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. So we're still at 8:15.
Yeah.
Yep.
The river is the ace of hearts.
Ace of hearts. Okay.
Which I think is a great card for me.
Well, I mean, it's less likely that he has an ace now. It is interesting, though, because if he did raise the flop, just less likely with an ace combinatorically. It's ace queen 6 on the flop, right? It was a rainbow board. The turn brought it 8 of diamonds. The interesting thing about the turn card here is that if he ever did actually have like a raising range of like not aces up, like ace king, something like that he just wanted to get value from, I don't see why he wouldn't continue betting turn. Because the 8 brings a backdoor in, but it doesn't complete anything. It just makes the board more draw heavy. Like even if I was in the big blind and you led and I had a raising range of like 8, even like I said, like ace jack plus, like I could have ace jack, I could have ace king, I could have ace queen, like the thick value hands being ace queen plus or better. I don't think I'm checking any of those cards back on the turn. Any of the stuff that I raised with on the turn, I'm betting on the 8 of diamonds.
When he checks back on the turn, the only thing I can think that he has for value, like with his raise on the flop, the only thing I can think of is like queens.
Yeah, but wouldn't he bet the turn though?
Yeah, I would think he would.
Well, I'm going to tell you. So before you tell me what to do, because I can already see the discussion going on here in the live chat. So, and again, I don't want to muddy the waters, but I actually disagree with a lot of people that are saying block bet, because we've talked about block betting certain situations here. This would almost be comical to block bet. A block bet is putting out a small bet because it kind of, I used to say, well, it makes no sense to put a block bet out if you can't get called by worse. You might even get called here by worse by king high, although the board didn't make that draw, all that draw heavy. And then somebody pointed out in actual theory, what I was saying is not true. A block bet can actually be used to actually prevent somebody from bluffing if you are balanced where you're blocking really strong hands. I just want to go over that. This is not one of those situations. I actually look at this situation where this is a clear check and evaluate. I would not block bet here. This is, again, one of these situations that I like to talk about where When you make weak trips, I always use the example, like if I'm leading out of the blind in a limp pot, and I'm leading out with like jack deuce on like a jack 5-6, 2 flush board into like 5 people, and I bet out and get a couple calls, and the turn's like a 10. It's like a double flush board, like jack 5-6 10, and I bet out and I get 1 call. I have jack deuce like in the big blind. The river's a jack. So all the draws break out. That's a check. And what I've found in live poker is that if you check when you make trips, your opponent actually bluffing frequency increases, because most of the time, if somebody actually had trip aces here, they would bet. They wouldn't hold, like if you had ace 10 here, I actually think the river play is to check for the same reasons, but so many people will just bet out. When you don't bet, that might give the guy the green light to bluff more often here. That's the case here for I actually think your hand is the equivalent. Well, it's not the equivalent hand strength, but if you had like ace deuce, it's kind of the equivalent, except that there's less. If I had ace deuce, is a more comfortable call down just because there's less of a chance that he has an ace. If I had ace deuce here.
Yeah, so that's what I do. I check the ace of hearts river, and he snap bets 425.
I mean, so the big blind bets 425. I mean, I gotta be honest with you. If I get here like this, I call, because so if you were playing against me in a different line, I might have some value bets on the river that wouldn't be trip aces, like say king, queen, or pocket kings, but I would never have value bets like this if I raised I would never raise with any of those hands, probably on the flop. So the fact that he raised the flop and then checked the turn, it's just so bizarre. It just doesn't make any sense to me. Like it would say, when you get into situations where you lose to some like a depolarized river range, but because he raised the flop, it's just so bizarre. Like is he raising the flop with king, queen? I mean, that would suck for you, I guess, if he had king, queen, and he raised the flop and then checked the turn and then bet the river for value. I don't think I'm seeing that. So I think if I got here, I would call.
Yeah, I think that if he had king, queen, he just calls the donk.
Right, that's the whole thing on the flop. Yeah.
Yeah. So I snapped it off.
Yeah.
He snap bet and I snap called. I didn't actually have enough time to evaluate the amount that he'd put in. He could have bet a lot more or a lot less, and I would have just called, because I feel like nothing checks back the turn that would bet this ace.
Right. Well, I mean, you agree with what I was saying for the most part. It just
exactly
again, that turn card is a one that adds more draws to the entire board, but doesn't complete anything. Where you'll find people check back, like ace king, a card can come that will add more draws, but it's also a card that actually connects with the board. And say for example, this guy had ace king. The 8 doesn't change anything, but it adds more draws. Whereas if the turn was the jack of diamonds instead of the 8 of diamonds, you might see ace king get checked back. You see what I'm saying? Because king 10 comes in and 2 pairs come, but not with the 8 of diamonds. So
yeah, the 8 is so disconnected.
So you call, and what happened?
He flips over his cards right away. King, jack of diamonds.
King, jack of, yeah. That is real. The reason why that's bizarre. So I got to tell you though, I mean, if I raise the flop, if I'm him and it's a little bit bizarre on a couple of levels. So if I raise the flop with king, jack of diamonds, and then I basically picked up a diamond draw, I think, and I'm trying to like put massive pressure on you, I think that would be one of the cards where I'm going to continue to blast away on you on diamonds. I'm betting a lot on the turn. And then on the river, like, I don't think he's got the nut no pair with king jack. You bet the flop and then called the raise. And I would say that wouldn't usually be a queen, but I guess you bet with a 6. Maybe I would be wrong. So I don't know if I would bluff the river here if I'm him. Although, for the same reasons why I think you should check an ace, though. We talked through that to give the guy the green light to bluff, because I think that maybe he wasn't going to bluff at the end, but then when the ace came and you checked, he's like, oh, this guy doesn't have an ace. Anyways, I got to move along. Thank you for the call. Jack, I appreciate it.